everything was going pretty well at the beginning of the show when I
When
first
did you
signed
join that show?
Yeah, I joined in February 2021.
Yeah.
So Steven had made an offer to come work for him, and I had been guesting on the show fairly regularly, so I took him up on that offer. The beginning was great for a while, it really was. It was a lot of hanging out, collaborating, putting out sketches, doing the things that I was hired for. It's definitely a grind. But that was part of it. The pot was sweetened, so to speak, is what I was offered. It was not this gigantic payday that everybody seemed to think. It was almost no bump, but
you didn't get $50 million.
No, I didn't get. I got about $1,000 extra a year, but it's hard to talk about money, but it was. But I knew that it would help on the road, and he wanted me to be there on more Fridays, and that started being a point of tension. Because I started making money on the road, and I did say I would be there on more Fridays, but every time I would show up, he wouldn't show up.
Okay.
And I just said, all right, well, I'm just going to work or go and see my son. And, he's in Detroit. And I said, as long as everything was working out, there was a possibility that they could move there.
Yeah. They meaning your family.
Yes. So about a year went by, and things had gotten more tense. Like things were more restrictive. For example, I had been more censored as things went on, where I couldn't, for example, say the word "cum."
Okay.
Like ejaculate. I forgot when I made the joke that was offensive or whatever it was. And then, it became a little weird because a light was put in where it was his rant button. And it was basically a Dave Don't Talk button.
Wait, so there's literally a light bulb? What color was the light bulb?
There was 4 lights in a row.
There were 3 lights.
I'm serious. And when it was hit, I wasn't supposed to talk. And they said,
was it like a regular colored light bulb, or was it like red?
It was like a yellow, a pretty bright yellow, like like yield.
So it's like off camera, but in your eyesight.
Yes, and
would he be the one pressing the button, or was there a producer pressing the button?
He would press it.
So like Mr. Burns, like he had a button under his desk or the table, and when it's Steven's turn to talk and Dave needs to shut the F up, he presses this button.
Yes.
How do I get this to happen? Because frankly, we're 13 minutes in and you're already on my last nerve. This is with Michael Malice.
Aren't you hitting it now? Oh, that's just Zoom doing it. He had that. Well, and then I was told that he's like, well, that was always there. And I'm like, no, I would have noticed the light and been told about it. That's
wait. So you were, wait, in all seriousness, it's possible that the bulb was always there, but I mean, it is of no relevance if some light comes on, if you're not informed of the fact that the purpose of this light is to silence you. Like, correct. If you're not in a room and a lamp turns on, we're not like, oh crap, Crowder's talking somewhere. Let's be quiet, quiet.
Well, it's almost literal gaslighting, except with electricity. Because you're like, that wasn't there. And you're like, no, it was. I know it wasn't there, So
wait, so how were you informed that there is a Don't Talk light? And what was your reaction?
I was pissed a bit because I know my job. I know that he talks a lot. I know that he's the star of the show. I know when to throw him what he needs to be thrown. I know when to sit back. It's what I did with Anthony for years. It's what I did next to Artie. It's what it's what I do. I'm not trying to ever steamroll him.
Right.
It was just, hey, don't be funnier. Don't be, and that's the truth. I mean, it sounds bitter, but I knew it was true because I was pulled aside and I said, and it was, hey, make sure if you're doing a rant or like you guys are riffing, he gets the last word.
You were told this explicitly?
Yes. All about the title, and I wasn't respecting it, so there needed to be a light. And I had to make sure that, he got the last thing. So even if I did have a funnier joke, I would just leave it out. It was important for the fans to not hear it. I always felt that my job as a comedian was to leave out the good one.
That's it. I don't know. I've never heard of that, to be honest. I mean, I don't feel like that's a thing, but maybe, what do I know? I've never been a co-host
I've heard it
in
in
my memory.
radio a couple times. Very
Really?
rarely,
Okay.
yeah, but I have heard of it where it's just the star needs to look like the star.
Okay.
So I guess, it's his show, fine. But I also feel like somebody who's so pro free speech and non-censorship, he was really about censorship. And that
Okay.
involved me. But he was going through, surgery that was a big deal at the time and stuff. I was fairly forgiving of it, And then about a year in, it was February 2022 for the Super Bowl.
The
He
light.
he wanted me to film a special.
Okay.
And
What kind of like a
I'm
special
sorry, he
episode?
didn't. I wanted to. I'm
You
sorry.
wanted to film a special. Okay. Yeah.
Stand-up comedy. So I had decided I was going to buy the equipment and film the special in Dallas. And we were selling out this theater. And he decided he wanted to get back into stand-up, which he had done when he was younger.
Okay.
And he had just been a host since then. So he said, hey, can I jump on and open it and I'll help promote it? And you can help me maybe write some of my stuff, get me back into it, and I'll help promote it. And I said, sure, of course. So we ended up selling out 2 shows, obviously, instead of just 1, because he was helping promote it and he's a draw. So we went there and Matt McClowery was the opener. And he went up and got a standing ovation after Steven, and Steven kind of saw we were friends. And after that, I pulled Steven aside, and Steven couldn't do the Monday show. And I said, could Matt come in and co-host with me? He said, yeah. So now it's Super Bowl Sunday. The whole special went great. I paid everybody to film it except for one other person, Tim, who was there to film Steven's set. And I was very looking forward to the special coming out. And Sunday had rolled around, and I get a call from the showrunner that said Matt's not allowed to do the show. How
did they tell you? Like literally what they say?
Via text, it was just Matt's not allowed. Matt can. It's been like decided, something like that. Matt, I can find the text,
but the word is allowed. It's not like we don't have time or won't fit the schedule. The word was allowed.
Matt's not allowed
permitted or something like that. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. To do the show on Monday.
Was there any explanation at all?
No.
Okay.
So I said, that's odd. I already asked Steven and he said it was okay.
Yeah.
And they said, oh, that's weird. I must have gotten mixed messages. So I just texted Steven and said, hey, I just talked to the showrunner. I just want to make sure it's still cool that Matt comes in. And he texted me something back along the lines of what's done is done.
Oh.
And I said,
what does that mean? It's your show. So he just says what's done is done.
Yeah. And I said, what does that mean? It's your show, which is ironic. That's what he said. And my phone rings, and, I don't want to go greatly into the conversation between us, but it was, he's like, do you still want to be on Louder with Crowder? And I said, not at the moment. And he starts going off on me. And now there's a ton of people in my apartment who can hear it.
Wait, he's literally raising his voice?
He's screaming at me.
Okay, so literally raising his voice, not just being stern, like to the point where it's audible.
It's audible, yeah.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, it's started stern, but then it got into telling me that he owns me. And
in those words?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. He owns me, and it was just it was venomous, and I don't know what he was going through at that point, and I just was like, dude, it was all this projection coming at me.
Was this the first time he had yelled at you?
In that way, yes, where it had come out where I saw a different person that I had heard rumors about.
Had Anthony Cumia ever yelled at you like that?
Oh, no.
Okay.
No. Anthony and I never even looked at each other in a bad way.
Okay. So
even when I left the show, I've never said a bad word about him, and likewise.
But I mean, you must. So let's just live in this moment for a bit, because it's just very jarring to me, right? So you're already kind of ticked that your buddy Matt, who had a good audience reaction that Steven was privy to, Steven had said, hey, have him on the show. To your face that he's allowed on, and then just to be for Matt to be dismissed summarily has got to suck. Did you have the opportunity to even tell Matt he's pulled before this whole interaction happened?
No, but Matt was very well. One, Matt could hear, and also
Matt was there.
Yeah, Matt was in the room. Yeah, and also he's very intelligent. He read the situation immediately and kind of could read it the night before, because Matt did very well.
But here's the other thing. Sorry to interrupt you. Matt isn't like, hey, I got this buddy back in Detroit. He should be your show. Steven saw firsthand that Matt is a professional comedian and responded well to Steven's same audience. So this isn't like some hearsay thing. I got this great buddy. We went to high school together. You should have him on.
No, he got a standing ovation as an opener in 2 shows in front of him.
Okay.
Yeah, correct.
Okay. So as he's yelling, like, what is going through your head?
The only thing bothered me just because I don't like being talked to like that.
Yeah, who does?
At all. Right. But it was comical in a lot of ways because it's just, I understand that there's going to be a touch of narcissism to anybody who's sort of in that field. I get it.
Oh, yeah.
But
Humorous, yeah.
Yeah, but at the same time, it was so over the top that I was trying not to laugh. And then he said Matt couldn't do his closing bit, which was killer because it was too dirty. And you've seen
wait, hold on. He couldn't do the closing bit on stage?
If we were going to tour together in the future, Matt couldn't do his closing bit on stage. Somehow that comes up. So you could tell there was this projection of how he was angry of how well that bit did.
Wait. Okay, I'm sorry. I need to linger on this for a moment because this is kind of surprising to me. He told you to tell your friend who you don't own that if he's going to tour with you, there is a joke that is the closing joke. You close on the strong joke. You don't close on, whatever, like any of your material.
Yes.
And you let him know he can't end on the closer that kills, that gets standing ovations.
That's the truest to him about being a high school wrestler.
But so he can't. But it's not like this. But I'd bring the joke. It's not like this joke is a Nazi joke. Endorsing lynching or endorsing like something horrifically offensive.
Oh no. That's right. More Stevens. But
I'm just clarifying for the audience. It's like it's not like he's saying, hey, if I'm touring with this guy, this joke makes it look like I'm, kind of I endorse slavery or something crazy like that. That's not what he's saying.
Not at all. The joke is actually, if I could be specific,
Sorry,
it's
Matt.
about. No. It's honestly just a joke about how when he played, football or when he was a high school wrestler, he would come out to the song "A Whole Lot of Love." That was their song before they would mount boys on all fours, and it was like, essentially like, oh, look, they forfeited again, undefeated season. And then, he talks about how, and it goes into this whole thing about how he doesn't like sports. And whenever you tell a group of guys that, they look at you like you took a cock out of your mouth to say it. And it's like just how and it's about him dealing with Asperger's, but also coming from a family of athletes. So it's this very true
and personal,
very personal, very real, not filthy, not gratuitous, just this very honest story. So he went into that, and then he goes into.
Did he give you a reason why he can't do that joke?
He said it was too dirty.
But it's not like you have kids at these. Like your material, a lot of your material is very dark and very appropriate for kids, right?
100%.
When you say a good, let's be conservative, what 30% is like kids should not be hearing these jokes.
100. Yeah, absolutely.
Easily.
Well, and he would say stuff to me before shows of like, keep it clean, which when you're me, you're like, what the, you're just holding it in. Like, why? Like, this has been me for 20 years. You skipped a decade and you're going to tell me keep it clean. And I'm like, yeah, let me do that for you. Let me just give up on what I do in my own craft.
Right.
Yeah, you feel like, because that's kind of what comics do when they can't do well. And he can do well. It's his audience. And it's not that he's going to do poorly. It's just an insecurity to go, you keep it clean. Don't do it's pathetic. It's not necessary. It's not, he doesn't need to do that.
Is that just him putting his what on the table kind of thing?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's unnecessary. He's going to do fine. And that's what I never got. It's like, why swing your dick around when it's not necessary?
Okay.
So in that, he then, this very oddly telling thing, he's like, this is why you don't have any friends. And I was like, what are you, like,
wait, literally, you said that?
Yeah. It was such an odd thing though, to say that, because I'm like,
you have no friends.
Yeah. And I was like, listen, I have plenty. They're just dead.
Yeah.
And no, it's funny because I'm like, no, I literally, everybody who grew up next door to me, like the godfather of my son grew up in the house behind me. I've never lost a
Wait,
friend.
I'm sorry. What is okay? I'm this is where
so
my
weird.
autism is coming in. When he says this is why you don't have any friends, what is the this referring to? Not being clean?
I guess that this is because I was kind of giggling.
Oh,
Like,
then
I'm
you weren't taking
sure.
it seriously enough because he was,
Yeah.
from your perspective, being so over the top.
Yes, and I'm sure. I mean, I'm sure the phone call was recorded, so we can always hear it. And I'm not saying that to be a jerk. I'm just saying that he legitimately records his phone calls.
Okay. So okay, I'd say, so my mom is like this. When she's uncomfortable, she starts like giggling and laughing, and it's actually kind of really hilarious because there's been because my mom is tough, but there's situations where that just obviously makes it infinitely worse, because if someone's screaming and the person just is awkwardly laughing, it feels like you're laughing at them as opposed to laughing at the situation.
Yes, and it's so odd because like I considered it's still in a way like he was like my friend, and that's why I even feel odd talking about it. But it has to like come out somehow because when you start getting treated like that, you're like, okay, well, he's not looking back to my entire track record of my life of like, I don't talk about my friends, I don't attack my friends, I do have friends from when I was a little kid, I don't treat my employees like shit, I don't have the turnover rate of an opium den. You know what I mean? It's like it's been a difficult time, and all of a sudden I had a really good night and I had a decent year of stand-up, and my agent came there. And this is another thing, I guess, I just kind of adding on, where my agent had come there, and the whole year I was like, look, he kind of wants me to be there on Fridays, even though he's not showing up. And my agent he's this gay Cuban dude who was like, well, if you're working with me, you need to be working. So he would just always book my shows out. But then all of a sudden,
wait, so how many times did he no show on a Friday before you were like, okay, this is ridiculous?
probably 8 or 9.
Oh, good Lord. Okay, so like literally never he's there on Friday.
No.
But you're just sitting. Are you just sitting there writing, twiddling your, like, literally? What are you doing?
No, we would make our own sketches, like Moses and this Moses sketch, like Candy Ass was one, some other stuff. But eventually, we couldn't get them greenlit, so we just kind of weren't doing anything. So I was just like, my family's not there, my kid's not there, and enough is enough, and I'm going.
Wait, so did you at some point like decide, hey, instead of me coming into the office, let me call to see if Steven's there, so I don't have to waste the trip?
They would decide on the day, and Gerald would say like, look, even if we're not going to be there, we need you there, even if you're just going to sit there and do nothing. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm not going to do that at all.
Wait, they said that explicitly, that even if we're not. Who's Gerald? Is he Steven's producer?
He's the CEO now, but he was one of the co-hosts.
Okay, so
second chair.
Okay, so he said to you, even explicitly, even if we're not there, we need you there.
Yes.
But I mean, if anyone's needed there, it's him. It's his show. You're not needed. Like, I'm not trying to be mean, but you're literally not needed there ever. Like, it's his show. He's the one who is needed to be there to be a show. If you're missing, it's fine. If he's missing, it's a problem because it's Steven's show.
Yes, he's killing it on Rumble without me. It's fine. I knew that. Okay. That's the truth, though. That's the reality. And I kept saying like, no, I'm gonna go live my life. That was the problem. Is like, dude, I'm making money. I'm going on the road. I'm making money for the first time
and building an audience.
And I'm
that's the other thing. Like, I've seen. Sorry to interrupt you, but I mean, people. I just want to talk about this a little slower. People really get off. No, I'm not trying to be cute. The people you see on your screens, when you see them live and in person, it's a very different experience. And I've done that myself. Like, I've gone to see people I like, and it's like, it's so much fun when you go, oh, there they are. It's such a, especially after COVID, to see them live and in person. It's very, very exciting. And you love to have an excuse to throw them money with a ticket and support them.
Yes. And it's something that I've really not experienced. I mean, I would have a bit of that after being on Compound. But most of my entire career was going to the middle of nowhere or wherever I was booked and getting an audience to like me.
Yeah.
So to finally have an audience, it was the first time in my life, and I was really grateful for it. You just go to these places, and there's people who were wearing, shirts with my face on them, and it was exciting.
Okay, so they told you explicitly, we need you here on Fridays, even if we're not here, and you said, I'm not doing that.
And I never agreed to it. I
Okay.
agreed to some, and it was the same as,
Was this a point of contention?
big time.
Okay, let's talk about that.
Big time it was. And then, but my agent wasn't going to stop booking me anyway.
Okay.
So I was getting good money. So I was like, all right, I'm going to do this. But then Steven wanted to do a tour together.
Okay.
So
this is circa when?
This is shortly after the Dallas show in 2022.
Okay, so like early 2022.
So we did a couple of shows that were 50-50.
Wait, I'm sorry. There's an important part here that I think we skipped over. If someone boots my friend from their show, which is their prerogative, it's their show, right?
Yeah.
And then they call me up screaming.
Mm-hmm.
The next time I see them, it's gonna be weird, I would imagine. Like, what happened after that? Like, how did that resolve, and how did you see him next time? Did you have to smile and nod?
No, I came in and he said, what was it? He apologized in a weird way. It was, you asked me in a weird way, is what he said. And I said, how? And he said, you asked me in front of a lot of people in the green room. And I said, it was just me and you. And he's like,
well, it's not accurate. What he said.
No, it's just not accurate. But it was more like I was so used to the gaslighting at this point that I was like, what? Okay. I'm like, but he did a great job. And he's like, well, I didn't know him. And I just saw how he did in front of the crowd. So I don't know how he would have been on radio. And I was like, you could have just said no.
Right.
And
or you could have tried them out once. I mean, a lot of these shows work well when they have like a big roster of, because it makes the host look better. I mean, Gutfeld does this very phenomenally. Red Eye, which, you were on Red Eye as well, weren't you?
Yes.
Look how many people came out of Red Eye. Me, you, Tim Dillon, Andrew Schultz. Like, there's just no shortage of people who, Kaylee McEnany, Bill Schultz. Just so many people came out of that show.
Yes. So it was just a matter of, and I know Matt's great because I've had him on Anthony's show. He did that a ton of times and people loved him. And that's a crowd of people who want to hate you.
Right.
So it was something that I knew would work, but then he never.
And I'm sorry, like, he's like, this is no disrespect to Matt, and he is the perfect sideshow because he's a freak. And he knows he's a freak. Like, that's a lot of his humor. It's like, look, I'm wired completely differently from you guys. I'm basically an alien. Like, let's laugh at it together.
And he's going to land something in the middle of what we're talking about that we're not going to see.
Right. Because his brain literally works differently than ours does.
Absolutely.
And he's perfectly happy being the punchline.
Yep. Which is the best part. I mean, if you can't take a joke, why be there? And that's very difficult, with Steven. And Matt ended up touring. He ended up hosting the shows. I took care of him myself out of pocket. And we ended up doing this tour together. Now, the first couple of shows were 50-50. And then the money changed. And all of a sudden, I noticed that I wasn't allowed to promote my own shows on Crowder unless it was behind the paywall or right before.
How were you told that you're not allowed to promote your show?
Like, the shows would start and 2 minutes before showtime, somebody would walk up to me and go, hey, you can't promote your show today.
There was never a reason given.
No, it was like demeaning. So you'd be like, oh, thanks. Great.
Let me play devil's advocate. Was it the kind of thing when you were on the show, you would just use any excuse to bring up your show to promote it? So they wanted to kind of pull back on that?
No, never once. He just wanted to promote his shows that we were both on together, or the ones that he started doing in clubs, which I realized that my agent was booking. That even though I had asked my agent if he started repping Steven, I was never given a straight answer until obviously I figured out that night in Dallas, my agent had flown there to sign Steven. And now it was his bigger client. And I was told by him that he was really there. He's like, and even when I asked him at first, he's like, sign who? What do you mean work with them? I don't know what you mean work with them. What? It was sort of this very roundabout way until I realized, like, I keep getting fucked here, and I keep getting like less. I never get a bump and raise, and now things started getting progressively worse, where I could never promote my shows. All of a sudden, it got really bad to the point where my agent was yelling at me, and he'll watch this and get pissed, and I don't give a shit. But he would.
He literally raised his voice. Also,
my agent was screaming at me, and that's when he and I fired him once, and it was already, he was screaming at me in my car. He's like, go in there and do your job. And I go, I am doing my job. I go, that's the problem, is I've always done my job. There's no complaints from the company that I don't do my job. That's the thing. The only complaint I ever had was that I fell asleep a couple times, but it wasn't because I was up all night doing blow and banging whores. It's because I write for the show. Or it was that I was late, which guilty. And I'll say that because they wanted me there at 7 o'clock or 7:15 or 5:15. Yeah.
5:15?
Yeah, it would depend on what they wanted to do that day. And I couldn't figure out, like, I couldn't get into a rhythm of it. And they kept changing what they wanted to do, like what time, when to come in, what the thing was, what the job was, what the this, the that, and if you text me at 11 o'clock at night to write something, I'm going to be up until 1, maybe 2 writing it. If you text me at 6 o'clock and you want me there at 7, well, I need to write it, so I'm not going to get there until 8:15, but I don't go live until 9:15. But I wasn't treated as talent. I was kind of treated like, like more of a 9 to 5 employee, which I had zero interest in being.
Right.
Even though I didn't mind being a 24/7 employee, though, if that makes sense. I don't mind, always pitching the show. I had, ads made every day. I always was pumping it. I always talked about it. I always said good things. I met every fan that went to every show. I didn't mind being a 24/7 employee, but you want me to be there 9 to 5, and then you also want me to be there at 9 p.m. when you need me, and then you want me to be there at 6 a.m. when you need me. It's like, that's not what I'm there for.
Right.
I'm there to be your sidekick, which is fine. And then I'm there to write the things you want me to write. And it's cool. It's fine. But it was always, for somebody who always uses the term moving the goalpost, that's all it became. So we began touring together, and yes, it was very good money, and I paid Matt very well. But it always became something where nothing feels good, even if you're making money, if you're being treated like you don't deserve it.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So the whole time it felt like this is everything that I have and it's being given to you. So even the whole tour, you just feel kind of like shit. And it doesn't really matter. You've just you're like, I'd rather just go back to clubs. I don't care. And we go on break in July
2022.
This is July 2022. And we got a new showrunner who was doing our tour at the time named Jeff, a good guy. And I get back from break, and at this time, I wouldn't go into anything about Steven's family, and I wouldn't want him to go anything about mine either, obviously. But somebody in my family was very, very sick and had been battling something for a while, seriously. And he knew that. And I came back, and he gave
they had an ugly, talentless family member.
Yes, and it was just...
Who's probably a lesbian.
It's me, and I'll tell you, no matter how much work is done on this face,
this mug.
Yeah, God has cursed me. That's why they wanted to change Mug Club. It was just any association. And so I get back, and the first thing I do is I get brought to lunch, and I get presented with this option with a new contract. The new contract says that my old contract is terminated.
Okay, officially.
It's officially terminated as of August 2022. And my new choice is I have to be there Monday through Friday. I got to probably look at the stipulations if you want me to pull it up real quick.
Yeah, pull it up.
Yeah, I can send one to you. It's but it was and I can even just read it. It says,
read it.
And this was sent to my agent, and it's like, this is just simply the contract. It was, William, just need a yes. I agree on all the revised items from Dave, and this is what Jeff showed me at lunch. And it was, once I get with our legal team on the revised contract below, it stays on salary, so no extra money. Moves to Texas, moves his family to Texas by the new year, first week of January.
I'm sorry, part of your contract, a proposed contract, was that your family has to be moved across state lines.
Correct.
Including your kid. You have a son. How old's your son?
8, 7 at the time.
Okay, so pull him out of school during the school year, and he's coming to Texas. Okay.
Yeah. Dave is here every week unless he notifies us well in advance for a show, just like a doctor's appointment. Can't be gone any more than every third weekend.
No, wait. So let's break this down also. Steven has started touring as a comedian.
Yes.
Steven is no dummy. Steven is very well aware that you and every comic, weekends are when you tour, hit the road, you make the money. So he is very clearly taking that secondary or even primary, possibly at this point, source of income from you, because you're just going to be sitting in Dallas for no reason, because it's not like you're doing shows on the weekends with Crowder.
Right. And gone every other third weekends means every 6 weeks.
Okay.
And then writes for show every day.
I'm sorry. I just want to break this down. Was it ever said to you or intimated to you that your touring is affecting somehow your performance or writing for the main show?
Oh, my writing? No. They felt that I had nodded off a few times, which really only happened maybe once or twice on a Monday because of like a delayed flight.
Okay.
But
okay.
Tough shit. I mean, that's my opinion. I don't care.
Okay.
Like, like Anthony never would have cared. Anthony was so full. Like Anthony would promote my stand up where I don't even think I would really have to.
Okay.
That's how, even when you look back at the Opie and Anthony days, that's how everybody was making money.
But at the same time, it's also like, if you're going to be up at 7 or what o'clock, you have to be there at 7. You're not exactly going to be all chipper. It's not like you're.
No, and I'm writing on the plane too.
Yeah.
And so I'm always working. Like there's not one assignment that I didn't turn in, and I have every screen grab to do that. There's nothing that I ever.
In fact, you're writing a lot of sketches that just didn't even get greenlit, so you're doing extra work in addition to what did get greenlit.
Oh yeah, that's the next part, which is writes for show every day in the form of sketches, in studio bits, pulling from previous sketches, previous show ideas, and that can be turned into sketches. So that's just busy work that I did every day, just for the sake of busy work, which I'll be honest, I hate. It seems so pointless for a show to do, but it's his show. But it's like, why don't we make the best show we can do instead? That's why I think SNL like just comes off like it's written by the CIA, because you're just throwing 5 billion things at the wall instead of going, let's take these 7 things and master it.
Yeah.
I just feel like whenever we would do that, like whenever I would host the show and we would put together a sketch that morning, it would look really good, at least for what I wanted, because we were focusing on one thing, not trying to make 3,000 things and then going, well, this half-ass one should work.
Yeah.
Now, man, granted, he has millions and millions of followers, but his show was once that first idea, not just throwing everything just to have busy work, to look like a hard worker.
Yeah.
He was a hard worker. Now it's an illusion, The next thing is he's ready to start his own show, by his own Friday show, by October 14th. So now I have a show every Friday for no extra money. So I can't tour on Fridays.
Let's break this down. So you are going to have your own show, which is a plus. Yes. But you're not getting paid a single dime to host your own new show on his network or his platform.
Correct.
And in fact, it's costing you money because now you can't be out, doing 2 shows a Friday night in Tacoma or whoever the hell cares, some other city.
Right.
Okay.
So then
I've never heard of that. I'm sorry. I've never heard of someone saying, I'm giving you your own show, you're not getting paid for it. I don't understand that.
Right. It was, well, it's control, and that was kind of what bothered me. It was the I own you aspect. And then the hours.
But that's the thing. If you're doing your own show, they're making money from ad sales or at the very least adding value to the network, because now there's more content and you're not seeing a cent of that.
Right. And that was sort of what it was before, where it was, we're going to sweeten the pot, and that didn't happen.
Right.
But it did happen in the sense of road dates.
Okay, right.
So I didn't complain, but then I can't do road dates unless he's on them now.
Right.
So basically I have to give up my stand-up career.
Right.
So then the next thing is hours Monday through Thursday, 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. Then it's hours Monday through Thursday,
Okay.
7 a.m. to 3 p.m.
Okay.
Friday 9 to 5.
Okay.
Which is so I can never catch a plane out of town on a Friday to even do a Saturday. Then I have to be back on Sunday, making it impossible to see my child or do stand up.
Yep.
And then the next thing is comedy special releases through Louder with Crowder, because he always felt that he owned my special, even though because he let me keep the door that night.
Okay.
But I didn't sign anything that said, "Oh, you're letting me keep the door, so now you own my comedy."
Wait, let's well, hold on. Let's slow down. Like people like Tim Dillon and Andrew, the aforementioned Andrew Schultz, they and Lucy Case, another one. They've done Gangbusters by Dave Smith. Libertas would hit #1.
Yes.
They do great numbers and make bank by putting out their special themselves, cutting out the middleman. People are more than happy to toss 10 or 12, $20. I don't know how much it costs, but it's like, hey, listen, if I don't support this artist, he's not going to be able to pay the rent. I'm more than happy to chip in because I'm getting content that I enjoy. He's making me laugh. This is fair. So his point was this comedy special, which wasn't have anything to do with him. It's your comedy, your stand-up.
Yep.
It's can only be. He's now just, even though for the same money, he's now going to kind of subsume that into his portfolio.
Yes, it's all inclusive.
Wow. Okay.
And that's a non-negotiable term.
Okay. How were you told? They were told you this is non-negotiable?
Yeah. And since I know everything's always being recorded, I was like, you know what? I'll just go ahead and record this too.
Okay.
And I took a screenshot, and then I was either that or I was 1099'd. And,
wow.
And that would be for lower money. And it was these parameters that, and I'll send you that because I think it's only fair. A few of the things that went in, goes into the back and forth. Studio Monday through Friday, 7:45 to 3:45. So now again, the times have changed.
Okay.
Just in a day. So it's again, company will enforce a strict 5-minute tardy policy. And this eventually showed up on October 2022 after I refused to sign anything starting when I returned in August, because I just wouldn't sign anything and I just kept showing up to work like Costanza.
And they kept paying you.
Yeah, they kept paying me forever.
Okay.
And I took the money because
sure.
I earned it.
Right, but I'm just saying it wasn't like, what are you doing here? They did keep paying you.
Yes.
Okay, so what I'm looking at right here, and we're gonna have it on the screen. Oh, you're a third chair personality. You weren't the second chair?
No, I was third chair.
Okay. But the thing the thing that I'm seeing is company will enforce a strict 5-minute tardy policy. Contractor agrees that if he arrives to work more than 5 minutes late, he's in breach of Section 1, must leave company premises, and will not be compensated for the day the breach occurred. Contractor's breach of Section, blah, 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 and you can't seek reimbursement for the days the breach occurred. So I don't think they even have this at McDonald's, to be honest. Like, if you're 5 minutes late, like, pack your crap and go home. How would that even be addressed on the air? Like, where's Dave? Oh, Dave was 5 minutes late?
Yeah, they go, how can you prove that? Well, our watches are different. Yeah, this is when I had to now start dumping money into entertainment lawyers. So a lot of the money that I even made on tour
right.
So, that became another issue.
So promotion, it says that they agree to promote your stand-up once a week at a time and in a medium of their discretion. So Correct. It could just be some random post somewhere that no one sees.
Correct. And that was because they had not been promoting me.
Okay.
And I put that I would, and it's in writing, and what I gave them was I would actually give them a commission of my sold out shows.
Okay.
And a commission of the shows if they were willing to actually promote my shows.
So is that not your handwriting that I'm looking at?
Yes, it is.
Oh, so you said, okay, I'll give you guys 5% of the door if I sell out.
5% in general and 10% if I sell out.
Okay. Oh, right. Okay. Yeah.
Just because where else am I going to go to promote? I'm not on any other shows,
Right,
and I
right,
don't have time to go to other shows because I write
right,
for him. And at
right.
this point, I'm now desperate to promote my shows
Of
because
course.
he won't do it.
Okay.
So you have me and Matt McClowery. He's got a new daughter. We're going around the country, and I'm watching ticket sales slide. And it's funny. Like I'm literally in malls. Like for example, doing like a funny bone, and I'm in like a comic book store, and Matt and I are standing there, and a guy would go, "Hey, you're Dave Landau," and I go, "Yeah." And he'd be like, "What are you doing here?" And I'm like, "I'm performing at the Funny Bone upstairs." And he'd be like, "Really? You should mention your dates on your show." And I'd be like, "Yeah, I should. You're right."
Wow. That must
And
have been
that
like a knife in
happened.
the heart.
It would hurt, yeah, but I
Yeah.
wouldn't tell them. I wouldn't go like, "Oh,
Right.
it's
I'm
because
not allowed.
I
There's the
got"
lights
yeah,
on.
yeah. And at that point, I had already had my, contract terminated. I could have said the truth, but I
Was
never
it
did.
terminated or did it resolve? Was it like had a fixed date?
No, it never had a fixed date. It was just they had said that that was done, and
You
I
were
had to
informed either verbally or in writing that your contract is
yes,
hereby done. Okay.
yes, and I had to choose either a 1099 or this new policy.
Okay.
And when Jeff asked me the choice, we were Buffalo Wild Wings, and I said, I guess whichever one fits up his ass better. Would you like to order lunch? Because I was
You
pretty fucking
you
pissed.
said that?
Yep. And that's the part that I don't think he ever grasped was I was very, and I'm still very forgiving of him because whatever he has and whatever he's going through, I just think he was bullied at some point in his life, and he has become the bully, and he doesn't realize it. And that's what sucks is he's got a lot of yes men around him, and I really do love his staff and I love working with them, but I think that they are kind of just a little bit intimidated at this point to keep their own job. I know I was, so I don't blame him, but it's just there's just something there that I just don't grasp because there is part of him that I know is good. I've met that person. But then he does stuff that's behind your back that's like this, and you're like, why are you doing this for power? And and it's just not worth it to me. And at this point in my life, I have hit rock bottom enough, and I have been left with nothing enough that I'm just gonna go, all right, well, that's enough. I'm gonna just go fuck
Yeah,
yourself,
I
and
know
I'm
what
gonna
it's like
walk.
to have nothing and be destitute, and I can do it. I've done it before.
Yeah, I can move on. I can go, and you can, he can claim martyr and make stuff up and say I did whatever, and I know the truth, and I know the people around me that know the truth, and that's just, and I'm being very, very generous here.
So what happened when you said that line about he could shove it up his ass?
Jeff said, I figured it would go probably a little something like this. And then we ordered lunch. And because
Okay.
Jeff said specifically to me, he goes, I don't understand why he's so high strung like this because you're not doing anything wrong. He just made me watch a full tape where he said you fell asleep. And I'm like, he didn't, because he was always looking for that. And he said, I don't understand because you're turning in everything he's asking you to turn in. He was kind of confused by it because he knew that it was this constant, like,
But
get him.
let me ask that tardy clause. How
Mhm.
often were you late to work?
Oh, like to the actual like show, like
Yeah.
being started once.
Okay.
He had me get an iPhone, and I got rid of my Android because I do stupid shit sometimes. I set it for PM and not AM, and I was late to the show. But a lot of the times when I was supposed to be there at like 8, I'd be there at 8:15, or I'd be there at 7:30, I'd be there at 7:50. But it was again because I was writing, and then I had to get ready to be on camera. It wasn't because of
So
any other reason.
you were never late on camera
No,
other than
never.
once. Okay.
No, only once.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Because if you have a clause like that, it would imply to me that this is an ongoing problem and we need to nip it in the bud. Wait, so this
Yeah.
so-called tardy policy, do you know if this is something that other people had to deal with, or was this something exclusive to your contract, to your best of your knowledge?
Oh no, it was just me. I mean, it was just me. It was odd because I wasn't allowed in rehearsal. So there would be a rehearsal and like they would go over everything, but I wasn't allowed in it. So I would have to sit in a separate boardroom with John, who works there, and just wait for 45 minutes kind of arbitrarily
Every day?
while while they did rehearsal for no reason, just because it was sort of an aspect of control while they did a rehearsal. and I wasn't allowed in the room. And my agent did fight, Steven's agent did fight to kind of get me in the room. Still never happened. And
Wait, what's the upside of not having the co-host during the rehearsals to make his comments fresher?
Yeah, I think so. He knew the jokes and where he could go quicker.
But why wouldn't you want the co-host to also know the jokes so you could go? I don't understand this. I'm trying to. I guess
you would seem funnier because you knew the topics better. I mean, even though I did know the topics because I was writing them into the show.
Okay.
But I guess it was just I don't know. I just was not allowed in the room.
You were never given reason, is my point.
Not really, no.
Okay.
So I would have to rush there to do nothing. So I would be playing with his dog while they did that.
Every day.
Unless we had to film something or I was to write something last minute, which wasn't very often.
Okay.
Because I had already written it the night before or that morning.
Okay. So this was what, August, you're saying?
Well, August and then October was when this other contract came in. I said I'm not just going to have some deal where it's a not a non-disclosure, but a non-negotiable thing. I'm like, that's just sorry, no. So I got the entertainment lawyer, filled it out, like I said, through this.
I don't understand that whole thing about telling you where your family has to live. I think that's kind of really that to me sounds really egregious.
Well, especially when one's sick and needs their own insurance and might have a job that covers that, and they know it.
Did you feel that was just like a twisting of the knife thing?
Yeah.
That just okay.
I felt it was very personal.
Okay.
I mean, that's why it's like hard to even get into, like, when still seem like a little jovial, because it's like, yeah, it's pretty shitty.
Yeah.
Because it's like you're giving me one contract of like, you have to be here 7 days a week, except for possibly a Saturday every 6. And I would say that. I would go, you said I could leave one Saturday every 6 weeks. And it's like, where does it say that, Dave? And it's like, just because you change the verbiage doesn't mean it doesn't say that.
Right. Right. Yeah. And it's had you been, okay, let's look at it this way. Had you been promising him that you're going to move your family to Dallas?
If things had, and that never happened.
If things had wonderfully broke up a bit. If
things had worked out.
Okay.
I said that there could be an opportunity for that.
Okay.
And if things it would be in my personal life and whatever, sure. But no, that wasn't, that would have never been my choice.
Well, it's not his business.
No.
Quite literally. When did the whole thing with Daily Wire happen? And what was your reaction to that?
That's kind of what happened with me. Was just before the break.
What was the break?
The break was winter break, right after he does his like Santa thing.
Okay.
Where like we went out for a minute and like I was dressed as an elf and I felt a bit degraded. And so I only like I think we filmed a couple things. Like we had some Visa cards and I was asking people questions and then I just started handing them to people that didn't speak the language. And then because I figured he'd never show that. So I right before the break, I was in his office and it was me, him, and John, and he had a conversation with me that he wanted to put out my special, and he was mad that I came to him because I had edited the special and I wanted to put it out.
So you filmed it without him in the interim?
I filmed a new one later without him because he wanted this one and I didn't want him to put it out.
The one that became a Prison 10?
Yes. So the original one was in Dallas and I didn't want him to put it out because he just thought it was his.
Yeah.
And it wasn't. This is my life story. I mean, there's stuff in there about, my dad's death, my mom's suicide. Like there's stuff in there that's so personal to me. So it's like, this isn't yours. So he brought me into his office and he said how he wished that he made the amount of money that I did last year and all this other stuff. And
wait,
it was
what? He said that or intimated to that?
Yes.
Wait, he was implying that you made more money than him, or significantly more money than him.
Way more money than him, yeah.
Okay.
And I sat there like, and I believed it for a minute. I was like, I don't know what this guy must be paying these employees or what And I kind of sat there.
They're not cheap.
No, they're not. China's very expensive for the American Patriot mug. Crap. And he told me, you saying that to me, and I kind of sat there like thinking like I mean, I did well, but it's like, let's be real here. Like, it's not like that. And but it was really odd because it was like John was next to me. He's telling me that, like, I wish I made the amount of money
you made closer to fuck me money than fuck you money.
Yes. And I kept thinking, like, it's like you did make 70% of the tour, but somehow that adds into me making more. But and I didn't know, but I didn't know even the kind of money that came in. I didn't know the real YouTube thing. I didn't realize.
Nor was it your business, right? That's fair.
No, I never asked. It was none of my business.
Not your business. Yeah, it's his
and
show.
And look, he created that empire. It's his money. It's his show. I never, and everything that I agreed to. That's the truth. So I never complained because that's what I agreed to.
Right.
So yeah, the only thing I did complain about was like, you said you would promote my shows and you didn't, and that pissed me off. Okay. So but then we were on Christmas break and I didn't know what we were going to do. I didn't know if we were going to the Daily Wire or staying with the Blaze or whatever this whole controversy is. And then all of a sudden he's there talking about a contract for 50 million. Now he didn't out the Daily Wire. He just said it was a contract for 50 million and said it was somebody. It was pretty obvious who it was, but in his defense, he didn't out them. But then Jeremy came out and outed it too.
Jeremy, the head of this Daily Wire.
Right. And I saw it and I thought $50 million, and I like looked at it.
And he turned down 50 million. Let's be clear. Or up. I think 50 million was the ceiling, but it wasn't starting at 50. But yeah,
yes.
For $50 million, Ben Shapiro can have my foot.
Oh, for 50 million. I couldn't even believe it. But it's also going, it hit me too, though, because that means, oh, what are we worth? That I just sat in an office and was shamed. The timeline met up to back in August that he first got this $50 million offer through my agent that I introduced him to.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Was at the same time that he knew what was going on in my personal life, that he decided to slide me a contract that said you have to do all this when he was being offered 50 million.
Yeah.
People are saying how much it costs to run the studio and everything else. It's like, So the way that I looked at it, I was like,
Challenger.
Yeah, let's not.
It's not cheap, but it's not 50 million. Yeah.
Hell, he's making a ton of money, which I'm not saying he doesn't deserve, but it's like at the same time, you knew that you were making a profit, and I was working very hard to help you make that profit, and your response was, fuck you, I'm going to take everything from you. And I just kind of was watching that like, is this for real?
Yeah.
And then they came back and said, well, we're going to kind of negotiate where, we come back with something, you come back with something. This isn't a contract. This is an offer sheet. And I listened to both sides and I thought, well, it seems that Jeremy's being very upfront and transparent here because he's pointing out everything. So I listened to a bunch of, different talking heads, but from what I could gather, each side had their points, but I felt that it was more of a stop big con thing seemed a little much.
Yeah.
And it seemed like pushing more of this infighting and this narrative. And if people really have these ideologies that they want to push and believe, it didn't come off as very true. It just came off as more of what I had experienced, and I just didn't buy it. And I was bothered by it. And then I thought, well, now you have this other company coming in who's paying God knows how much money. You have other companies that want to offer, and people are going, he said it's not about the money, but he just asked for $120 million. So 50 million isn't about the money, and then it's $120 million, isn't? And I'm just being honest, going, that seems a little weird. And then for me, watching it, knowing what I had to look at and have to make choices on, and knowing how frustrated I was for pennies.
Yeah.
It was, it bothered me in a lot of ways, where I thought, I can just go and do my own thing. And I was much happier as just a road comic. I don't have to do this. I can just go do something else. It was his choice to rip up my contract, not mine.
Right.
It wasn't my choice for him to do this. So I wanted to go.
Were there any, let me ask this, just to be clear, were there any terms that were better with this proposed contract than you had already been receiving previously?
No.
Or is it all in the worst direction?
Oh, it's all in the worst direction. I wasn't sure. I was like, do you want to fire me? Like, just fire me.
You're right. It wasn't like the salary was doubled, but at the same time you got to move your family, right? It wasn't like a mix.
Right. No. It was no. It was from
a
him.
worse offer than you had originally by every metric.
By every metric, except my agent kept telling me, hang in there. I'm telling you, by February, you'll have 350 grand a year.
Okay. Why? How would that happen?
I had no idea, because it never did.
But why would it? If the contract's for less than that, why would it change by February?
No clue.
If you're not allowed to tour, it doesn't make any sense. Okay.
And I kept saying, but who's offering us? Like, is it the Daily Wire? Is it the Blaze? Is it this? Is it that? And he goes, well, I can't tell you that. It's
but
not.
If he's got you under contract, why would he give you a raise if he goes to the Daily Wire? It doesn't make any sense to me.
Right. But I just kept being told that. And I said, well, who's making the deal? And he's like, well, I can't tell you. That's Steven's deal. And I said, but I'm on the
your agent.
He is my agent, I think.
Okay.
He was, he was. But he's Steven's agent. He makes millions and millions and millions of dollars off of Steven. So,
okay.
I hope I know that their relationship that I connected them with has been very fruitful.
Okay.
And which is fine. I mean, it's odd because why wouldn't you? I'd have no problem with them working together, but why just sneak around and fuck me?
Yeah. Right.
Like, you could have just told me that. I mean, you let me use your platform, I'll let you use my agent to make money. Right. But instead it's like, let's just give Dave nothing.
Right.
And it's odd because so many people have come out, because I made a joke on the show where I said, look, I'm all about the money. It's what I do it for. I'm all about the money, which in a joking way is me saying, yes, I work for money. I don't work for wagon wheels and horseshoes. Yes. But at the same time, it was a joke because but so many people, I realized, are stupid and listen to some ungodly amount of money and go, you said it's not about the money. And that's the truth. And it's like, are you how stupid are you? Of course.
But here's the other thing. Let's suppose it's not about the money. Mm-hmm. I didn't see anything in those Daily Wire terms that were particularly offensive. They weren't like, move your family, change your name. You had to advocate for gun control, or you have to endorse Biden. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't think anything in that contract was at all offensive from what I'd seen of it.
No, I don't think that they did. And that's what my problem was with it. And I don't know anybody at the Daily Wire. The only reason why I know anybody at the Daily Wire is because they were friends with them.
Okay, yeah.
And that's what bothered me about it so much, was I was like, why would you do that?
How did you find out that he tape records his phone calls?
I heard that he did.
Okay, people in the office talked.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I had heard that he did, and that he'd showed a few other people how to do it.
Okay.
And that's how I knew. But then I really didn't care. I mean, there's cameras everywhere, it's sure. Like, but at the same time, I'm like, oh, he's in a business where maybe he needs to for whatever protection. I get it. He
could get me too really easily. You know how it works with
I get it. Yeah. So it's like, I really didn't think it was that big of a deal. I did think it was a big deal to play it on the air.
Yeah.
And to call it slave wages when you buy clothing and mugs from slave wage countries where children make shit, and you're saying you're a patriot. Like, that bothers me because of the hypocrisy, but is what it is. I guess I'm just being nitpicky at this point, saying something like that. But it bothered me because I would never record my friend and play it on the air.
Right.
And even this is a hard conversation to have, because I want people to just kind of get a vague idea of why I left. So at that point, I honestly had no idea about any of this big con stuff. So if anybody thought it was a pre-planned thing, I can't say that. I don't know that to be true. Mm-hmm. I know there's various timelines, but I just saw it as these two things going on. And I called up Gerald, and I like Gerald a lot. And I said, Jeremy Boring's talking about a $50 million thing. Like, I kind of saw Crowder talking about it, but now I'm watching this rebuttal. I don't understand, and I was furious, to be honest. And then when he came back with the other thing, I was like, don't play that.
Yeah.
And then I was just kind of furious with a lot of people with the infighting. I guess everything runs on hypocrisy and drama. That's the lubricant of our society. But it was all this infighting, going at each other, saying of who was right and who was wrong. And I thought it was very clear who was right and who was wrong. It was playing a private conversation. It shouldn't have been done. That's my honest opinion. So I was going to go back onto the show. I was getting paid. I sent in a few things, but I did have jury duty on a day, and I just couldn't. I called and I quit. I said I couldn't do it.
How'd you say
And
it? Were you nice about it?
I said, yeah. I'm just saying I don't want to do it anymore. It's not for me. You guys had terminated my contract back in August. And then I followed up with a text because I learned the last time I quit a job to make sure everything. This is the conversation we just had.
Yes.
To let you know.
Memorialize it. Yes. That's good advice to everyone listening. Yes.
Yes. And then he'd call me a couple days later and said, would you come in and do a farewell episode or something these 2 days? I said I would, I'm like, you know what? I could come back. I do have to do jury duty that Monday, which I guess you can get out of, but I stupidly had already filled out a form. But I was also bothered because I had to reshoot my special. I had shot Normal World.
Why'd you have to reshoot the special?
Because he wanted to put out the version that he wanted from Dallas, and I didn't want that out. It was tainted for me. It was just a bad memory, and that's as simple as that. So I reshot my special, and then I had put out Normal World, and that came down to, I was told that it's if I didn't say that was originally supposed to be a pitch for Steven, they would fire the 3 employees that were in it at the time.
Wow.
And that was my choice. So 3 people were on the
say this? They meant for you to say publicly.
They said, that they had to basically come up with a statement and say that it was originally a pitch for Steven, so he could kind of own it. And that they wanted me to like take it down off of YouTube, and my agent said, take it down, I'll get it sold. And they would fire 3 people if I didn't take it down.
You were told this on the phone or in writing?
On the phone.
That your colleagues would be fired if you don't do this.
You were
threatened as hostage. They're basically hostages, right?
Yeah, and I saved plenty of texts, but it was just a matter of, I was like, okay, but it was never for him. He could have gotten it though. He could have had the option to use it onto a new network. But I started making it because some of my sketches just weren't to the taste of that show, and I wanted to do something as a side project. Little too much gum references, especially the demon molesters, just far too much gum. And but truthfully, it was my own project because it's a surreal dystopian nightmare that's not necessarily right or left wing. It's not anything. It's just it's sort of just shining a light on everything in our society.
Okay.
And it's a different thing than what his show is. It was created very much separately, So that was another thing where I kept thinking, well, you never retweeted my special even to acknowledge it existed, even though I had retweeted a few things, in his favor with the Daily Wire thing, even though I don't know if I should have. Okay. And I still backed him up. I didn't go against him or anything. I was like, okay, well, this is fine. I mean, I didn't put it out there. And in that moment, people were like, you should put up the contracts you have, bury them right now. And I thought, no, there's people who work there that have families, and I care about the people who work there. And I'm not interested in taking down his show. I'm just interested in leaving.
Yes. Okay.
So I told them, look, I can come in and do, kind of a farewell show, a couple shows. It got closer. They said I had to do the jury duty. I was going to go in on Monday. That was a huge problem for them. They were furious. Yeah, and I was in LA, and I was flying back to Dallas, but then I was just like, what are you going to do, fly back to Detroit? I was like, yeah.
I have to, yeah.
What is that, magic? So that's what I did, and then I didn't get called in, but I had to be there.
Yes.
That was that simple. So it's what I had to do. It's what I did. And then I did offer to come in, but then it was sort of being ghosted. And I've had to deal with a few things with medication. I know I've had my own issues with mental health. It is what it is. But I have tried to be like, look, we can figure this out, whatever it is. But it's just come down to, and I would do want to say, if you're a fan of the show, watch the show. Nick DiPaolo is absolutely hilarious. I think it's great they have him on. I like Brian Callen a lot. I think it's great. I don't want to be compared to other people that are being brought in. I think it's a good show. So there's no part of me that wants to see any ship like that sink.
Yeah.
There's just the part of me that goes, for whatever reason, he and I had this tension that I think was especially custom to me because he saw me and him as very similar. And at that point, I just said, you know what, I can't do this anymore. I don't know why he is like this with some co-hosts. I know he has a track record, and I just have to leave. That's why I'm leaving. And I do sincerely wish him the best. I wish that show the best. But for anybody who's watching, I'm going to do my own thing. I really hope he respects that, and I respect him, but it's like, it's done. I cannot be part of that anymore after, how I was treated. I'm happy to go. I just don't want to do it. Done.
Wasn't there some miscommunication about your last days on the show publicly?
Yes.
Can we talk about that briefly?
Yes. Well, it was the jury duty thing. Wasn't that the...
Well, didn't they say you're coming back?
They did say I was coming back because I did say I would come back and do those days as long as I didn't have to go back for that reason.
Okay.
And they sent me an NDA to sign and with a money amount. I turned it down. I said, I'm not going to sign an NDA. That goes against everything that your show stands for.
Yeah. Non-disclosure agreement, people who don't know what that is. Yeah.
Yes. He sent me a gift to help for getting him to Rumble. No strings attached. Very nice. But I said
cash
that...
gift or a physical gift?
Cash. It was
okay.
Cash. But it was still something where, and which I appreciate, it was nice. But after that, it's like, it's just done that I was not going to sign anything. I was not going to say that I'm not going to ever defend myself or say there was a reason that I didn't leave or take, or just say that, I deserved it. Or the reality was in the last year, I was treated in a way that I did not deserve to be treated. And regardless of any amount of money that people think or thought that I made, it was not worth it. And I appreciate every fan that came out to every show. And I really do appreciate deeply the fan base that Steven got me. But it just, by the end of it, the gaslighting and I'm glad to be done. And that's about it, and the confusion came to a lot of people that called them a liar about jury duty. Steven wasn't lying. That was the truth. It's just they didn't have me back on after that because they were very upset that I chose jury duty. But that was how it worked. And then I think he felt embarrassed that I didn't show up after he said I'd show up. And that is pretty much how I got ghosted or whatever this thing's been. But I don't want to ignore the fans anymore. And every day I get, when are you coming back? When are you coming back? I'm not. So
when was the last time you spoke with him?
Maybe 2 months ago, a month and a half.
What was that conversation like?
He texted me and said, I'm glad you're going to come back to do a show. I said, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And he said, I have your Christmas present in my garage. And I was like, okay, what do you say? He said, it's very heavy. I said, I hope it's a panda. He said, I don't trust animals that don't fuck. And I said something like, I'll fuck it. And that was it. And I think that was the last time we spoke.
What would you say to him if you saw him if you're in a room with him right now?
Sorry that it didn't work out. I think we actually made a really good team.
Okay. Are you expecting him to call you screaming and flipping his shit?
No, I'm expecting him more or less to martyr it or ignore it.